Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are on Samachay Amud Beis. Tana Rabbanan. So we gave 4 or 5 yesterday. We gave 5 reasons. Welcome back. We gave 5 reasons why it's different, why we should say the way that we say. That Mimacharas HaShabbos means the day after the first day of Pesach and not a Sunday. We're going to give 4 other reasons, and then we're going to say which ones we like and which one we don't. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, Usfartem Lachem, Badam Samachay Amud Beis, Shetehei Sfira L'chol Echad Ve'echad. Every Sfira, everybody should count themselves. Mimacharas HaShabbos, Mimacharas Yantiv. So it's the day after the first day of Pesach, i.e. the first day of Chol HaMoed. Oweinu L'macharas Shabbos Bereishis, or it's the Macharas Shabbos Bereishis. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda Omer, again another reason. Harei Omer Tisbrucha Mishim Yom. How do you know that it must be the day, first day of Chol HaMoed, and not the first Sunday after Pesach begins? Because it says 50 days. Kol Sfir Shat Sofer Lo Yu'al Chamishim Yom. V'im Tomer Macharas Shabbos Bereishis. Pam Shat Tamotzi Chamishim V'echad. Pam Shat Tamotzi Chamishim V'shnayim. Chamishim V'shlosha. Chamishim V'arba. Chamishim V'chamisha. Chamishim V'shisha. As I said yesterday, we're going to end up rejecting this because for some reason Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda is assuming that it needs to be the same amount of days from the second day of Pesach every year, even if you don't start on the second day of Pesach. So what he says, for instance, is everybody agrees that if the first day of Pesach is on Shabbos, you're going to start counting Sfiras Omer on Sunday. Whether you say like us, which is the day after the first day of Pesach, or you say like them, which is the first Sunday after the first day of Pesach. So Lamaisa, you can end up counting the same amount of time. But for some reason, he holds that you need to have the same interval of days, same amount of days, from the second day of Pesach. That means if in 1 year you start counting, let's say this year you start counting from Sunday, which is the day after the second day of Pesach, which is Tez Zayin Nisan, then next year, Shavuos needs to be the same amount of days from Tez Zayin Nisan, which it's not going to be, because if next year, say the first day of Pesach is on a Thursday, then according to them you're going to start counting on Sunday, which is Yud Zayin, and therefore it's going to really be 51 from last year. The Gemara is going to reject it and say, ridiculous, who cares about what the interval is from last year? According to the BAYT it's always 50 days. It's just a matter of when it starts. So that's going to be the rejection. But that's number 1. Rabbi Yossi ben Beseira Omer, Eino Tzarech, as opposed to us, where we're always going to have Tisbrucha Mishim Yom. We're going to have 50 days that we always count from Tezayin Nisan. Rabbi Yossi ben Beseira, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer, Eino Tzarech, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer, Eino Tzarech, Harei Omer Tispor Lecha, Sfira Tluya Bebeizin, Yavsa Shabbos Bereishis, Sfirasa B'chol Adam. We had this yesterday. Tispor Lecha must be that it's the way that we do it, because our count is based on Beis Din. Their count is not based on Beis Din. They could just go over to some random stranger in the street and say, excuse me, when is Shabbos? When is Saturday? And he tells us Saturday, and then we could start counting the day after. Now we said even their count, we said yesterday, really even their count is totally on Beis Din, because they can't just go over to anybody and say when is Saturday any time of the year. They need to know when the Saturday is right after the first days of Pesach. So I suggested that, Jacob suggested that when you look at the new moon, or you look at the middle of the month, you see you're not sure if it's the 15th, the 16th, the 14th, but you have an idea that it's the middle of the month. Therefore, they'll know that it's the first Saturday. They can go over to any person in the street the first Saturday and say, when Saturday? Once they see that the moon is full, they can say, when Saturday, and they don't need Beis Din at all. We, even when we see the full moon, we still need to know when Beis Din declared Rosh Chodesh, because the full moon might mean the 14th, it might mean the 15th, it might mean the 16th, so we need Beis Din. So Tispor Lecha, it needs to be Lecha, you need Beis Din to give you the heads up. Therefore, it must be that Mimacharas HaShabbos is not talking about Sunday, because they don't need Beis Din for Sunday. They could just ask any non-Jew, but Mimacharas HaShabbos must be the day after the first day of Pesach. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Mimacharas HaShabbos, Mimacharas Yantiv. It's the day after Yantiv. Atom Mimacharas Yantiv Eino Ela Mimacharas Shabbos Bereishis. Amarta V'chinemar Mimacharas HaShabbos Shebetoch HaPesach V'lo Nemar Mimacharas HaShabbos L'chol Shana Kula Melei HaShabbosos Tzeu B'dog Ezo Shabbos. So he says it also can't be them, because all it says in the pasuk is Vartem Lachem Mimacharas HaShabbos. Count from Sunday. So if you hold that Mimacharas HaShabbos, if you hold that Shabbos means the first day of Yantiv, of Pesach, then Mimacharas HaShabbos means after the first day of Pesach, which is the second day of Pesach, which is the first night of Chol HaMoed. But if you hold that Mimacharas HaShabbos means the day after Saturday, well, what Saturday are we talking about? It could be Saturday today, it could be Super Bowl Saturday, it could be this Saturday, it could be that Saturday. What do you mean Mimacharas HaShabbos? The Gemara is going to reject this also, because we also can be Mimacharas. How do we know which Mimacharas HaShabbos we're talking about? We know that it's in Pesach, but ours could be Mimacharas Yantiv Sheni, or Yantiv Acharon. So Menachos HaShabbos, how do we know for sure that it's going to be, again, according to the Baitusim, how do we know that it's this Sunday versus any other Sunday? Says the Gemara, Ve'od, Nemer Shabbos Amat v'Nemer Shabbos Lamala. Mal halan regel v'tchilas regel afkan regel tchilas. We had this answer yesterday that we made a hekesh to the Shavuos. Just like by Shavuos, you bring the Shtei Lechem on the Atzeres, on Yantiv, and on the beginning of Yantiv, i.e. on Shavuos, is only one day of Shavuos. You bring it on the first day of Shavuos. So too, you bring the Omer by the Tchilas HaRegel. Therefore, Menachos HaShabbos means the beginning of the regel. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar merkos v'echad omer shesh yamin tocha matzos v'shchtav v'chad v'echad omer shivas yamin matzos tochelu ha'ketzad matzah sheyata yachol la'achlo shiva min hachadash ata yachol la'achlo shisha min hachadash. So he says another interesting proof. He says that it says in one pasuk eat matzah for 6 days. It says in one pasuk eat matzah for 7 days. Which one is it? He says it proves the way that we prove. What? That for 6 days you can eat chadash matzah. We know you can only eat chadash, a new grain, after you bring the korban omer. Therefore, according to us, when you bring it on the first night of Chol HaMoed, you could start eating the new grain the next day. Therefore, you could start making matzah on the first day of Chol HaMoed. Therefore, you have 6 days to eat chadash matzah, new grain matzah. 7 days is talking about yashan matzah. 7 days you could eat the old matzah where you have the old grain. But according to them, you can always eat 7 days yashan matzah, but according to them, you might not have 6 days of chadash matzah. You might have 5 days of chadash matzah. You might have 4 days. You might have no days of chadash matzah, according to them, because according to them, if according to them, if the first day of Pesach is on a Sunday, then by the time you start counting Sfiras HaOmer, the next Saturday night, Yantiv's over, and there's no matzah left to eat. So according to us, it makes sense. 6 days means from the first day of Chol HaMoed, you have 6 days to eat chadash matzah, and 7 days means yashan matzah, from last year's crop. But according to the Baitusim, it could be less than 6 days for sure, and it could be even no days that you could eat chadash matzah on Pesach. Says the Gemara, so it's interesting. The Gemara is going to say that there are 3 different things we need to do here. We need to cut the grain, we need to bring it as a korban omer, and we need to start counting Sfiras HaOmer. So how do we know what's what and when we start what? It means let's assume according to us that we start on the first day of Chol HaMoed. Do we start counting at night? Do we start counting in the morning? Do we cut it at night? Do we cut it in the morning? Do we bring it at night? Do we bring it in the morning? So we know what do we do, as we'll see. We start counting at night, we cut it at night, and we bring it in the morning. That's what we do. Let's see the Gemara. You can count whatever you want. Talmud lomar mehachel chamesh b'kama tachel lispor. Mehachel chamesh b'kama tachel lispor. You start counting when you cut the grain. Imechel chamesh b'kama tachel lispor yachol yiksor v'yispor v'emes hashir tzeiyav. You can bring whatever you want. Talmud lomar yom aviachem. You bring it on the yom. Mimocharas haShabbos. Imi yom aviachem yachol yiksor v'yispor v'yavi b'om. B'yom. Talmud lomar sheva shabbatos mosiena. So sheva shabbatos mosiena teach me you have to have 7 full weeks, not Sunday to Saturday. 7 full weeks. So that means you have to start counting the first night of Chol HaMoed, right? The first night. So it comes out again that it's only miyom haviachem. The haviachem is bayom, the ksira is balayla, and the svartim shevat shabbatos mosiena is by the layla as well. Amar Rava. So Rava says we had in yesterday, for those that were here, and even if you weren't here, we had 5 opinions as to how we know that we're right versus the Tzedukim. Again, the basis of all this discussion is Fartem Lachami Macharas HaShabbos means the day after Yantiv Rishon of Pesach, which means the first night of Chol HaMoed, and according to the Menachos HaShabbos always means the first Saturday night after Pesach begins. So we had 5 proofs yesterday that were right. A few of them were the same. 4 and 5 were really similar. And then we had 4 proofs today. 1 or 2 of them were similar to the 5 from yesterday. But we have a total of 9. A few of them overlapped, but we brought 9 opinions as to how you know that we're right and they're wrong. So Rava says 4 of the 9 are irrefutable. 5 of the 9 can be refuted. Says Rava, Amar Rava, Kulu islahu pircha, bar mitarti tznai basrai, bein masnisa kamaisa bein masnisa basraisa, delaslu pircha. The 2 last one out of the 5 from yesterday's Mishnah, or Brisa, the 2 last ones of the 4 from today. So 4 out of the 9 cannot be refuted. The other 5 can be refuted. We'll go through each one again, just as a good chazara, and we'll say how you refute it. Imi de Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he was the first one. He was the one who spoke to the actual man. So what did he say? He said yesterday that it says Tisperu Chamishim Yom and it says Sheva Shabbatot Simos Tiyena. Top of yesterday's daf, Samachei Beis. So what did he say? He said it must be that we're right, because how can you have counting 7 full weeks, Shabbos to Sunday, and also count 49/50 days? So he said, well, when Yontif falls out, Yontif, whenever I say Yontif, I mean the first day of Pesach. When the first day of Pesach falls out on Shabbos, you have Tisperu, you have Sheva Shabbatos Miyatziyani. You start Saturday night, and you have 7 full weeks, and then Shavuos will be on Sunday. When Yontif falls out on any day but Shabbos, then you have Tisperu Chamishim Yom. Then you don't have 7 full weeks. You have 7 full weeks, but again, a full week is Sunday to Saturday. You don't have 7 complete weeks. You have 7 full weeks, but not 7 complete weeks, and therefore that's what Tisperu Chamishim Yom. But according to you, where it always starts on a Sunday, what's Tisperu Chamishim Yom? It's always Sheva Shabbatot Timios, and it's always 7 complete weeks. It's always Sunday to Saturday. It's always 7 times Sunday to Saturday, and Shavuos is always going to be on Sunday. Remember yesterday we said the reason according to him Shavuos should be on a Sunday. We always have a 2-day Yontiv. You can chill out on Shabbos and Sunday. Says the Gemara, how is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wrong? Sounds very nice. Dilma Kida Abaye, because you might not be able to use those psukim to prove your point, because those psukim are used for something else. D'amar Abaye mitzvah limamne yome, mitzvah limamne shavui. This is the source of our mitzvah. You're supposed to count days and weeks. So what do you see? You can't tell me that Tisperu Chamishim Yom is when Yontif starts any day but Shabbos, and Sheva Shabbatot Tzimena is when Yontif starts on Shabbos, because we need those 2 psukim for something else. Tisperu Chamishim Yom tells us you have to count days, and Sheva Shabbatot Tzimena tells you have to count weeks. That's what we do. Hayom Yom Echad, or Yom Yom whatever, Shehem, Shavua, etc. So you need that. You need to count days and weeks, and therefore you don't have these psukim to teach me that it's telling me that it always starts on it always starts the day after Yontif. So that's one rejection of the first proof. Imir Rabbi Eliezer of Rabbi Yoshua. So Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua yesterday, what did they say? They were the two that made the hekesh to, they're the ones who said that it's tluya bebezdin. Rabbi Eliezer is the one who said that tispor l'char needs to be tluya bebezdin, and they don't need bezdin. We need Beis Din because we need to know when the first day of Yontiv is in order to count, and they don't need Beis Din because they can just find out any Shabbos. And Rabbi Yeshua, who said what? Also, we need Beis Din because you have to have a starting point. You have to have the molad to know that you work off of the starting point. We have, just like we have the molad, which is the starting point for the Chodesh, we have the starting point, which is always going to be Tez Zayin Nisan, as opposed to them, which they don't. Says Gemara, Mimayt b'Yom Tov Rishon Kai Dilma b'Yom Tov Achron Kai. Granted, I agree you need a starting point, and I agree that we need Beis Din to be Mekadesh Chodesh, and we need that in order to be able to count. But maybe when it says Usvartem lachem imacharas hashabbos, how do you know that it means? Yes, it may not mean Saturday, it may not mean Sunday, but how do you know that it means the second day of Yontiv? How do you know that it means the first day of Chol HaMoed? Maybe it means Usvartem lachem imacharas hashabbos. We understand that we're in the parsha of Pesach. Maybe it means the first day after the last day of Yontiv, the first day of Isru Chag. Which would be very nice. You finish the 7 days of Yontiv, you finish the 7 days of Pesach. As you go get ready to eat your chametz, you start counting Sfiros HaOmer. So there's no proof, according to them, that it's not the Motzei Yontiv that you start counting. Says the Gemara to Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Leslahu Pircha. Again, of course, the one that we didn't understand fully, but Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, who were the ones who said again, they're the ones who say that you make this hekesh, just like on Shavuos, you bring the korban. Just like on Shavuos, you bring the korban shtei lechem on the regel and at the beginning of the regel, so too we bring the omer on the regel and at the beginning of the regel. What do you mean the beginning of the regel? Mimacharas HaShabbos, the day after the beginning of the regel. And again, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said something similar, and therefore that doesn't have a pircha. You make the hekesh to Shavuos and Shalom al Yisrael. So those are the two that are good. Imi de Rabbi Yossi bar ben Rabbi Yehuda, which is what we said this morning. That was the one that we started with. It has to be 50 and it has to be relative. It says in Gemara, you would think it's 50 besides for these 6 days. Now Rashi says it says 6 days because he gave examples, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56. Just use the last one, 56. But basically what he's saying, as Rashi explained, is that, what's your problem? Like, why are you telling me that it needs to be, we're right, because according to them, it's going to be a different interval every time. Who cares? They say 50 days. From what? It's always going to be 50 days from. It's always going to be 50 days from when you start counting. Who cares that last year the second day of Pesach was on a different day? Who cares? What's the difference? So Gemara rejects that. Imi de Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. If it's from Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, which says what? It has to be truly Beis, and we just rejected that by saying might be Yom Tov Rishon Kai Dilma be Yom Tov Achron Kai. Why is it dependent on Yom Tov Rishon? It should be dependent on Yantiv Sheni maybe. How do you know? Very nice. It has to be Taloy and Beis Din, but maybe B'macharas HaShabbos means Motzei Yantiv. Rabbi Yossi Nami Chazi Le Pirchei V'hainu Dekam Va'od. And you could ask that same question on Rabbi Yossi, who said B'macharas HaShabbos means B'macharas Yantiv and not Macharas Shabbos Bracious. But again, you can also ask the same question on him. How do you know that it's Motzei Yantiv Rishon? Maybe it's Motzei the end of the Chag. Therefore, he said Va'od. And the Va'od we don't reject. Because again, his Va'od was what? His Va'od was similar. Nemar Lamatav, Nemar Shabbos Amala. And then you have Rabbi Shimon Elazar. So it really comes out that those three opinions are basically the same. So if I ask you which ones are not refuted out of the 9, really there's not 9. Really, 3 of them are the same. So really there's 7. And out of the 7, we accept 2 of them. What are the 2 that we accept? First of all, we accept the fact that we're right because we make a hekesh to Atzeres. And just like on Shavuos, they bring the Omer at the beginning of the Shavuos, but there is only one day of Shavuos to bring the Shtei Lechem. Just like they do it at Regel, Tchilas HaRegel, so too we do it at Tchilas HaRegel. We do it in the beginning of Pesach, Mimacharas HaShabbos, the day after Yantiv Pesach. That's the one that we don't reject. And the second one that we don't reject is a comparison to Chadash. The fact that it says on one hand you eat matzah for 6 days, you eat matzah for 7 days. Only according to the way that we do it are you guaranteed to be able to eat matzah from Chadash for 6 days and matzah for Yashan for 7 days. According to the Tzdukim, there are going to be years when you can't eat matzah from Chadash at all, and definitely not for 6 days.
Of course, you could say about the Regel of Atzeret, it's the last day of the Atzeret. There's only one day.
It's the first and the last.
It's
correct.
the first and the last. So why can you say it's the last day of Yantiv? Then you're back to the last. How do you know it's the first day of Pesach?
7 days of.
There's only one day. I don't know. There's only one day of the Regel.
I understand.
So we're saying we're bringing it on the Regel. We're bringing it at the beginning of the Regel. You want to argue bring it at the end of the Regel? Okay, maybe.
You give it 7 days.
What? You can make up that Saras, yeah.
So it's really 7 days. I mean,
Right.
You only celebrate the first day. But,
Right. I guess with the Evid you could bring it the entire. You could bring it for the week after. Says the Gemara. Gufa, Amar Abaye, mitzvah l'mani yomi, mitzvah l'mani shavui. Rabbanan debe Ravashi, manu yomi, manu shavui, like we do. Amemar mani yomi velo mani shavui, Amar zecher l'mikdashu. Amemar only counted days and not shavui, and not week because it was zecher l'mikdash. Now it's interesting. The Mefarshim ask, I understand if it was zecher l'mikdash in the mikdash they counted days and weeks. So what do you mean? Why would you not count days and weeks? Again, according to him, you only count days when there's no mikdash. But either way, we paskin that, like Abaye says, you count days and weeks, and therefore you need those psukim to teach you that. Okay, Zak the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, what do we have? We know that we have this reaping of the barley. So we said we cut it at night. What happens next? What do you do with the barley after you cut it? Katzru nisanua bekupos. They cut it and they put it into baskets. Heviula zara. And they would toast it nice and toasty in order to be yotzei the mitzvah of kali. Now the pasuk says, I don't know why Rashi quotes part of the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Ve'im takriv minchas bikurim laHashem." When you bring the minchas bikurim, what's that? The omer laHashem. Aviv, it needs to be aviv. Aviv is like spring. It needs to be the first grain, the first blossoms. Kaloi be'esh. It needs to be toasted in fire. Geresh Carmel, coarsely ground. So now the discussion becomes, according to Rabbi Meir, what would you do? You would toast it before you thresh it. Everybody agrees you have to toast it. Everybody agrees you have to thresh it. Everybody agrees you have to grind it. That's a given. You got to get flour. The question is, when do you toast it? So according to Rabbi Meir, you toast it before you thresh it. Thresh it is when you take the kernels out. After you thresh it, you have to sift it, right? You have to grind it, and then you have to sift it. You thresh it, you take out the kernels, basically, then you grind it, and then you sift it. So says the Gemara, what he would do is he would say that you have to toast it, then you go ahead and you thresh it, you take out the kernels. Chamim, who we're going to go with, argue and say what? Bekanim uvekolchos chovtino. So first thing you do is you get the grains, you get the stalks, then you beat them, you thresh them with wet reeds and soft stems. Kadesh lo yismaich. You don't want to crush them. You hit them, right, on the floor. So now you don't want to crush them. So now you're able to thresh them. You get out the actual grains, the kernels. Nisanu la'abuv. You put the kernels before you grind them. Again, after you thresh them, because you're not gonna toast flour. So you get the kernels after you thresh them. La'abuv, you put them into this copper kli. Va'avuv haya menukav kadesh or sholet bekulo. and this copper kli was it was like perforated on the bottom. So that then you put the fire. Sharchu ba'azar v'ruach min hasheves bo. So what would you do? So you'd have kernels on this kli, which was sort of perforated on the bottom. You would put the fire underneath it to toast them. So now you have toasted kernels. Sounds very good. You have toasted what? You have toasted kernels. Then you put the toasted kernels onto the ground of the azara for the wind to come blow on it and to dry it off if it got wet. Then you take the toasted kernels and nisanu l'reichayim shel grossos. You put them into the bean mill. We're going to see on the next daf. You do it by hand. You have to go and crush them by hand in the mill. Why they do a bean mill? So Rashi says that the bean mill would come out with like big pieces. It ended up coming out with relatively big particles, because again the pasuk says geresh karmel. You have to coarsely grind them. They have to come out with like big pieces. So you grind the kernels, but they're not too dark, they're not too thin. Then when you sift it, all of the big pieces, particles stay away, and you end up with the barley flour. That's what the Gemara says. You need an isaron, a flour which came from how many solaces of barley? 3 solaces of barley. Then then you sift it 13 times in 13 sieves. And now what's interesting is out of these 3 solaces, you're going to have more than isaron of flour. What do you do with the leftover flour? You take an isaron of flour to use for the korban omer. What do you do with the leftover flour? Seemingly it's hekdesh because it was used in the mikdash. What do you do with it? You have to be podet. You have to redeem it. And then anybody can eat it. Says the Gemara, now that flour that I just got, that was leftover omer flour, says the Gemara, v'chayiv b'chala u'pater min ha'maiser. It's chayiv and chal and it's pater from maiser. Rabbi Akiva mechayiv b'chala u'v'maser. So everybody agrees that that flour, if I go home and I make challah with it, I have to take off challah. It's chayiv and challah. Why? Because the chayiv and challah is not chal until I bake bread. If I bake dough. So it wasn't baked in the mikdash. I baked it at home. When I'm a hedyot, for sure I have to take off challah. What's the machlokes? It's chayiv when you need it. What's the machlokes by the maaser? The machlokes by maaser is that we know when is a pile chayiv in shumas and maasros? When you do meiruach. What does that mean in English? When you take the pile and you smooth it out. You put it into a pile and you smooth it out. Where was that done? That was done in the Beis HaMikdash. So the question becomes, if the meiruach, if the gemar malacha is done in the Beis HaMikdash, and I only get it afterwards, well, they don't have to take off Trumas and Maisros. So one can argue that since the Meiruach was done under their auspices when they were pater from Trumas and Maisros, therefore that flour and that bundle forever will be pater in Trumas and Maisros. Or one can argue, even though it was pater when they got it, as soon as it came into my hands, now I'm chayiv in Trumas and Maisros. So the first opinion, the Tanakama says, once it's pater, it's always pater. And therefore, since when they had it and when they did the Meiruach, it was in the hands of Hekdesh, therefore it's going to be pater and Trumas and Maisros forever. And Rabbi Akiva says, no, very nice, it was pater and Trumas and Maisros when they did it, but that didn't poter it from Trumas and Maisros in the future. That just at that time was pater, and now when I get into my hands, I have to go ahead and take off the Trumas and Maisros. We'll see the Machlokas in a minute. Tana Rabbanan. Gotta hurry up. Aviv ze aviv, when it says that you have to get aviv, so it has to be the first grain. Kaloi be'esh, milamein shal Yisrael mahavin oso be'esh k'dei l'kayim b'mitzvahs kali divrei meir, like we said, that they would roast it, they would toast it before they went ahead and did the threshing. V'chachamim omrim, ein or lashon kali ela davar acher. That if they would actually go ahead and toast it while it was still in the stalks, that's not called kali. So it can't be that they toasted it in the stalks. In the stalks, he said. Lish nachrina ein lashon kali ela davar kalil. And he says something else. He says the way that you're doing it, the word kali doesn't just mean to toast. It's coming from the word kalil, which is something shiny. You have to toast it in something shiny. The way that I said, you toast it in something shiny, because you put the kernels into a shiny copper utensil, which is perforated on the bottom, and then you toast it. So according to me, it's right. Ha-ketza, what do? Avav shal klayos hayasam. So they would put the parched grain into this pipe that was copper. Vayimenukav kikavra. It was like a sieve. It had holes on the bottom. Kadesh or sholetas bekula, like we said. Fine. Now the pasuk says aviv kaloi geresh. Eini yodei im aviv kaloi im geresh kaloi. This was the whole discussion. Do you do it while it's still in its stalks, or do you do it when it's flour? So the chachamim say kishu omer ba'esh hifsek ha'inyan. What does the pasuk say? Im takriv minchas begrim la'Hashem aviv kaloi be'esh. You do it kaloi be'esh, you toast it while it's still aviv, while it's still in its stalk. Then gerish carmel, then you coarsely grind it. That's the Chacham's opinion, which we're going with. Says the Gemara, carmel, how do you grind it? Rach umal. You crush it very softly, like we were saying, with soft reeds. Now the Gemara is going to enter a little bit of a tangent for the next 10 lines and say that just like carmel means rach, you take the car and you make it rach mal, that you softly crush it. So that's going to say there are other examples in Tanakh where you have a word that's used as a noctarion, as a contraction of other words. So let's see an example. V'cheinu omer, v'ish bami bal shlisha. There was a person that came from this place called Bal Shisha, v'yavei le'isha Elohim, to Elisha lechem bikurim, v'asrim lechem sorim. He taught him 20 loaves. V'karmel bitziklono, Vayomer telam vayochel, and he brought him carmel in a siklono, and he said, "Go eat." What does the word bisiklono mean? It's a contraction for ba. He came, v'yatzak lanu, and he gave us, v'achalnu, and we ate, v'navehaya. That's what bisiklono means. It's 4 words. It's that it was good for us. V'omer, it also says nitalsa be'avim. This is talking about as Rashi says, an adulterer, who says to the person that she's having adultery with, nit alsa be'avim. What does the word nit alsa mean? What does it stand for? Nasa v'natan, let's talk. V'na'aleh, then let's go up. V'nismach, and let's be happy. V'nischate be'avim, and let's sin together. So again, it's 4 words together in this one word, nit alsa. V'omer kenafr nanim ne elsa. The wings of this bird are ne elsa. What do they do? Nosei, ola, v'nischate. This one's only 3. He takes the egg, Rashi says, and he flies up to a nest, and he finds the right place to deposit the egg, and then he flies down, lowers himself, and puts the egg down in the nest. V'omer kiyarata derech lenegdi. This is the chamor of Bilam. What does he say? He's saying yirasa, ra'asa, natata. The yirat means I saw the angel, I was afraid of the angel, and therefore I veered off the path. So that's what the word yered. All these words are words that mean more than one word. Rabbi Yishmael Tana Carmel. Rabbi Yishmael Tana Carmel. Carmale. Debei Rabbi Yishmael Tana, Carmel, Carmale. He said when it says Carmel, it was a Carmale, it was a full car. What does that mean? Rashi says that it needs to be that you have kernels that were full. They have to be ripe. You have to make sure that you take kernels that are ripe, that are, I guess when they're ripe, they're like a pillow. They blow up inside of the, like a puffed wheat. But puffed wheat is after the fact, no? We puff the wheat. This has to be kernels that are puffing themselves basically. They have to be full kernels. Rabbi Akiva mechai bechalo v'masros. So let's just finish up. Amar Rav Kahana, Omer Rabbi Akiva meruach hekdesh eno poter. So what's the machlokes? So he thinks, Rav Kahana, which we're going to reject in a second, he thinks that the reason that Rabbi Akiva holds that when you get the flour, which was originally used for the Omer, the reason that you have to go ahead and you have to take off meiser is because he holds meruach hekdesh eno poter. Tanakama holds that if Hekdesh does the Meruach themselves, then it's poteret. They did the Meruach, at the times it was in their hands, therefore it's poter from Chumas HaMaisos. Rabbi Akiva holds, he thinks, this is what he thinks Rabbi Akiva holds, that Meruach Hekdesh is not poteret, and therefore as soon as it falls into your hands, you have a chiyuv to take off the Chumas HaMaisos. Masiv Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says this cannot be the reason of Rabbi Akiva. This cannot be the argument. Why? Moter shalosh shayin halalu mahayosim. But what they do with the leftover flour? Nifta v'nocha l'chaladim v'chayiv b'chalu pater min hamasros. That's the Chachamim. Rabbi Akiva mechayiv b'chalu v'masros. Amru lo. They said to Rabbi Akiva, I don't understand. Podem miyad gizbar yochiach. We know that you agree with us that in general, when you get flour from a gizbar, shechaye b'chalu pater min hamasros. It's chaye b'chala and it's pater from meiser. So why over here are you saying chayav b'masros? What's the question? Vim isa de meruach hekdesh eno poter ma'ike amar hihi. If in fact Rabbi Akiva held that when meruach hekdesh, that when hekdesh does a meruach, it doesn't poter it, he could have answered them what? He could have answered it that this is like every other case. That just like in those cases what? In those cases when they do the meruach, the person's still chayav. So too in this case, when hekdesh does a meruach, the person's chayav. I.e., what's the Gemara saying in English? The Gemara is saying that in general, Rabbi Akiva holds meruach hekdesh is not poter it. That the fact that meruach hekdesh is poter it. That's why they didn't understand his opinion. They said, we don't understand your opinion. So we're saying, what do you mean we don't understand his opinion? If he holds that when Hekdesh does the meruach, the smoothing, it doesn't poter it, so then what's the question? That's his opinion. And he says the same thing here. The Gemara says no. In general, Rabbi Akiva seems to agree with them that when Hekdesh does the meruach, it poters it. And what they were saying to him was, I don't understand. In general, you agree by all other flour besides for the Omer, you agree that when Beis Din does the Meruach, it poters it, and I no longer have to take off Trumas and Maisos. So why over here by the Omer are you not poter it? Therefore, there must be another reason that Rabbi Akiva holds that by the Omer you're not poter it, and we'll see what that reason is in a second. Says the Gemara, "Ve'od Eisvei Rav Kahana bar Tachliva Rav Kahana." We see clearly there's another reason. Rabbi Akiva mechai b'chalav v'matzah v'shelo ninu mos elo letzorech lahen. Very interesting. He holds that in general, when Hekdesh, when the Beit HaMikdash has something and they do Meruach on that thing, it poters it, and you're no longer chayiv to take off Trumas and Maisos. It belonged to Hekdesh even if it comes into your hands later. What's the reason here that he holds by the Omer that when it comes into your hand you have to take off Trumas and Maisos? For separate reasons. Because when we gave the money to Hekdesh to purchase the solas, to purchase the 3 sa of barley, retroactively we only meant to give them money to purchase the amount of barley that would result in an isarona flour. And any other barley that they had, which was extra after the fact, we never intended for Hekdesh to be chal on it. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva can hold that in general, when Hekdesh does a meruach, it's pater. Whoever takes that flour, whoever takes that grain afterwards, it's pater from Trumas and Maisos. But over here, Hekdesh wasn't doing the meruach on this stuff. Because at the end of the day, the meruach that they did after the fact, only part of it was Hekdesh, and the meruach that they did on the rest of it was meruach that didn't belong to Hekdesh, which was always chayiv in Trumas and Maisos. That's what Rabbi Akiva is going to say. Only the part that we end up getting the sarana flour from is Hekdesh, and the rest of it is not Hekdesh. Therefore, the part that you get, the only question I have on this is then why do you have to be podit? Yeah. Why do you have to be podit? That's the only question that I would ask. Why do you have to be podit? So it sounds like it's like quasi-Hekdesh, where like it's sort of Hekdesh, but we never wanted the real shame Hekdesh to be chal. But that's the only question I would ask is why do you have to be podit then? That's what the Gemara says.
Another way of saying buying it.
So it says the Gemara, it could be. So again, in general, he holds that if something belongs to Hekdesh and they do the Meruach, it's pater and Trumas and Maisos. The difference here is that when he says you have to give Trumas and Maisos on the leftover flour, the difference is that flour never belonged to Hekdesh. That flour always belonged to who it ended up, again, retroactively, when it ends up in my hands, it always ended up belonging to me the entire time. Says the Gemara, Amar Pshitali de Meruach Hekdesh Poter, Vafilu Rabbi Akiva lo kamechai vasam ela shlo ninu ma'atz ela tzarech lehen, aval Meruach Hekdesh ba'alma Poter, like we said. Last question. So we said Meruach Hekdesh, when Hekdesh does the Meruach, it's pater, and over here in this case, it wasn't something that belonged to Hekdesh. The last question for the day is what happens when an Ovei Kochavim does Meruach? That means, let's say, and the Gemara talks about this whole idea about can land in Eretz Yisrael actually belong to an Ovei Kochavim in order to be mafkia miyad ma'aser. The whole discussion of this Gemara, Rashi says, is under the premise that an Ovei Kochavim cannot really own land in Eretz Yisrael. Because if he doesn't own land in Eretz Yisrael, because if he actually owned the land in Eretz Yisrael, then there'd be no discussion. It's his produce, it's pater and Trumas and Maisos. But as Rashi says on the left, if you want to see it, Meruach u'mishal Ovei Kochavim kon alokech min Ovei Kochavim, on the left, l'kesaver ein kinyan l'Ovei Kochavim be'Eretz Yisrael, la'afkia miyad ma'aser. It's a big Rashi. That there's no kinyan for an Ovei Kochavim in order to really have a kinyan, and therefore it's always going to be chayiv and meiser. So now the question becomes, there's a question about what about the Meruach? So now you have an Ovei Kochavim who has a land in Israel. So theoretically, just based on the fact that it's a land in Israel and it belongs to an Ovei Kochavim, it doesn't matter that it belongs to an Ovei Kochavim, it's chayiv and meiser. The question is, when he does the Meruach, what happens? So says the Gemara, Detani Torm Mishal Yisrael Yisrael Mishal Ovdichavim Al Shal Ovdichavim Mishal Kusim Al Shal Kusim Mishal Al Kol Al Shal Kol Divrei Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir says he has the same chiyuv. An Ovei Kochavim, a Kusi, has the same chiyuv in Trumos and Maisos with produce in the land of Israel as we do. Therefore, if I get a present, we know in general, if you give me a present and you give me a present, assuming you're both Jewish, and you give me a present of grain, I could take off Trumos and Maisos from your grain for his grain. Assuming same quality, fine, let's assume everything. What happens if I get a present from him who's not Jewish, and a present from you who's Jewish? So it depends. If both of them have the same chiyuv on a d'oraisa level to take off Trumas and Maisos with them, then I can interchange, just like I can interchange a Jew to a Jew. But if your chiyuv is not really a chiyuv, it's only d'Rabbanan chiyuv to take off Trumas and Maisos from the grain of a non-Jew, and there's a d'oraisa obligation to take off the Truma from a Jew, then I can't take off from this for this or for this from this. So the Tanakama, Rabbi Meir, says you could take off interchangeably, which seems to say what? Which seems to say that the same chiyuv that a non-Jew has, a Jew has, and therefore the meruach of a non-Jew equals the meruach of a Jew. And if I get something from a non-Jew, I need to take off Trumas and Maasros, and I need to take it off on a biblical level. Says Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon Omrim, Tor Mishaisal Shaisal Mishalov Decham Mashal Kuhusim, Mishal Kusim Al Shalov Decham. The Kusim and the Lov Decham are interchangeable. Avalo Mishal Yisrael Al Shalov Decham Mishal Kusim, Velo Mishalov Decham Mishal Kusim Al Shal Yisrael. Why? Look at Rashi on the left. The Kesavar Rabbi Shimon, Meiruach Ha'ovei Kochavim Poter, V'havalei Min HaPater Al HaChai Chiyuv V'Min HaChiyuv Al HaPater. The argument is that when he does the Meiruach, what happens? So does his Meiruach count or not? So if we say that his Meiruach counts, then what? As soon as he does Meiruach, similar to Hekdesh doing Meiruach, he paters it. When he had it, it was only Chayav on what? It was only Chayav Trumas and Maasros on a Dirabanan level. When he does the Meiruach, now he paters the Truma going forward. It stays a Chiyuv Dirabanan, and therefore what? When he gives it to me, I can no longer go ahead and take it off for the Yisrael's grain. But if we say that the Meiruach of an Ovei Kochavim is nothing, then when he gives me the grain, what happens? It's still chayiv on a deraisa level, and therefore when he gives it to me, it's chayiv on a deraisa level. Then you can go ahead and I can interchange them, and shalom al Yisrael. Okay,